Welcome to my video of me showing love to my golden Land Cruiser. I hope you'll enjoy it. So today we'll be fixing a coolant leak. I'm not sure it's visible for you, but this coolant outlet, which is connected to the engine, is completely wet from the seepage of the coolant. Now luckily for me, I've been keeping my eyes on this leak, so I know it's and I have a video about it, and I will share it, a quick video. So I know it's not leaking from the hose, but from the gasket that is between the outlet and the engine. So yeah, and today I'll show you how to fix this leak, because coolant is not something you wanna ignore because it's corrosive, and also most importantly, liquids lives under the outlet directly to the alternator. So yeah, let's get to it. So before we start, remember safety first. Today we'll be dealing with toxic coolant, so make sure you wear your good gloves and your safety glasses. Also make sure your starts are working so the hose doesn't hit you in the head. So the most bothersome step about this whole job today is draining the coolant. To get access to the radiator drain plug, this skid plate must come off. It's held by 8 12mm bolts. So yeah, let me do this off camera and get back to you. I got it off. So here's my setup to make draining the coolant as less messy as possible and also save the old coolant and reuse it. I got a transparent tube directly into a clean container. So break the radiator drain plug loose. You can do this by hand, no need special tools. Don't remove it completely, just loosen it enough so the coolant starts draining. There she goes. If you want to speed up the process, you can remove the radiator cap. So if you're patient like me, eventually the coolant will stop draining. So I had to remove the radiator cap for it to continue. So since we will be removing only the upper radiator hose, there's no need to drain the whole system. I've drained about maybe 8 liters and it should be enough. So let's just close this drain plug again. Make sure it's tight, but don't go crazy tight. Okay, that's enough. Next step will be to disconnect the upper hose from the radiator. Slide this hose clamp down and pull the hose out. Shouldn't be any coolant here. Let's find out. Now that's optional, but I like to cover every radiator connection that I remove with the plastic bag. So yeah, now moment of truth. Let's break these nuts loose and see if we can pull the outlet out. So these nuts are 12mm. You may need a deep socket because of the long stud. Let's break it loose. You know what, on second look, I don't think I can remove this water outlet without removing the alternator bracket, because it will hit the side of the water outlet. It's too thick to be fed between the stud and the bracket. So darn yes, we have to remove the alternator. That's a big headache. So yeah, let's remove the alternator. Let's start by disconnecting the battery negative terminal. It's 10mm. Next we will have to remove the belt, so first we will have to break the alternator pivot bolt loose. It's 14mm. So I'm using a breaker bar here. This bolt is highly torqued. There we go. Okay, that's enough. Let's bring the ratchet. Okay, just loosen the bolt a little. Next, loosen this tensional lock bolt. It's 12mm. I torqued this myself last time, so can you see it? Okay, that's enough. Then loosen the tensioner bolt to take away the tension from the belt so you can remove them or slide them off the alternator. That's our goal. There we go. So in order to remove the alternator from the car, I will try to fish it from, or pull it out from this area, this opening. So let's remove everything in the way as little as possible. Let's start by removing this hose completely. Make sure your alternator is covered with something before you remove this hose in case coolant starts dripping. So let's slide the clamp off and pull the hose out. Let's see if any coolant will come out. Nope, we're good. So next, let's remove the coolant overflow tank. I'll disconnect the hose from here. Okay, let's unbolt these bolts. I believe they're 12mm. That's one of them. That's the other one. And the overflow tank just come out. This opening should be enough to remove the alternator, hopefully. Now let's disconnect everything related to the alternator, starting with the connection right there. Would you look at that? That doesn't look healthy. I guess I'm glad I'm removing the alternator after all. In any case, let's continue. Next, let's remove this plastic cover if you have it. So this cover come off easily, just push it down, up, it will break loose by itself. Next, let's remove this nut that holds the wiring. So this nut is 10mm. Come off easily. There we go. So since we will be removing the alternator completely off the car, we'll have to disconnect everything regarding its tensioning mechanism. This tensioner long bolt, the lock bolt, and the tensioner. Start with the tensioning long bolt, just to make sure to remember how everything goes back together. Let's pull the bolt off. It's shiny because I replaced it recently. And that's the tensioner and the lock bolt. So I apologize for the terrible view, but that's the best place I can place the phone safely. So yeah, let's remove this heavy alternator out. Wish me luck. So make sure to support the weight of the alternator with your hand before you remove the long bolt, so it doesn't drop on you. Be careful because this is really heavy. That is a fight. Got this steering hose. So unfortunately I couldn't get it off. It's turning into a real nightmare, this job. There are many things in the way. The steering line also. There's this alternator lower bracket in the way. So let me try remove this lower bracket and try again. So in order to get access to the lower bracket bolts, you need to remove the idler pulley. It's 14mm bolt. Such a pain. I had to break it loose with two hands. Sorry about that. There we go. So this tensioning bracket is held by a bolt and a nut. Both are 12mm. Let me take it off and I'll show you. There it is. Okay, let's try to fight this alternator off the car again. Wish me luck. So again, make sure to support the weight of the alternator and then remove the bolt that holds it. Let's see this time. It's coming out. There it is. It's out. So unfortunately this opening is still not enough. It was rubbing on this connector. I decided not to force it as not to damage the wires. I will disconnect this connection and then try again. Okay, let's try again. I put a towel here also so not to wrap the fan shroud. That is such a fight. There's still not enough room to remove the alternator safely without damaging anything. It's still rubbing. Now I'm gonna try to remove the positive terminal, push it away from the opening. Let's do this and try again. Okay, let's try again for the third time. Please come out. Yes, finally got it off. So here's that cursed bracket that prevented me from removing the coolant outlet without going through all this trouble. It's held by two 14mm bolts. Let me remove this off camera because I can't put the phone anywhere here safely, and I'll show you. I got it off finally. It's nasty because I have a leak, oil leak from the front of the engine, and to fix that I have to tear the engine apart. It's not dripping, so I'm living with it, but it really makes everything so dirty. Look at the gloves. So let's remove this motor outlet. We already broke one nut loose, so let's work on the other one. There we go. Here's that bloody gasket that put me through all this trouble. It's stuck in the engine even. Now let's keep an eye on the orientation of the gasket. So here's the part number for the new gasket. The new gasket does feel much thicker than the old gasket. I guess the old gasket lost its material over the years because of the heat circles. Also gonna replace the water outlet. This one is really corroded, and I'm sure eventually it will start leaking, and I don't want to go through all this work again. And that's the part number for the new water outlet. And a bonus for you, that's the part number for the nuts that hold the water outlet on the engine. So let's put everything back together and make sure the surface where the gasket will sit is as clean as possible, and then the gasket will sit in this orientation. And the coolant outlet will sit in this orientation. The edgy side will face down. Replace the nuts and then torque the nuts to 16 foot-pound. Figured to show you how tight of a fit the alternator sit on the bracket. Yeah, that's really tight. It's gonna be fun to put this back in place. I might use anti-seize on the edges here to help slide everything easier. But yeah, it's the only way to swing the alternator just like I remove it. So this bracket sits in this orientation on the engine. Put the bolts back and tighten them, and then torque them to 32 foot-pounds. So now comes the main event, the hardest part of this job, to put the alternator back. So like I mentioned, I will use some anti-seize around these areas to help slide the alternator back in place easier. Also on the bracket from the inside. So make sure to have your alternator bolt somewhere close. I also put a rag on the on this area in case I want to put the alternator to rest my arms. So yeah, let's do it. Wish me luck. Make sure not to drop the alternator. So the key here is to swing the alternator. And it will drive itself. The struggle will be to match the holes for the bolt. Okay, I think now I can slide the bolt. Come on. There we go. Yes, I got it out. Oof. That was not easy. It's that bolt. Don't forget about the coil connection. We disconnect. Make sure it's click. Okay, let's put everything else back. Next, this alternator tensioning bracket sits in this orientation. As for the torque specs, I'm not sure about the torque specs. I looked around, I didn't see anything specific for this bracket. There we go. I would go 16 foot-pound for the nut and 22 for the bolt. So next, the idler pulley. I hope you can see something. So this idler pulley, according to the manual I follow, says the torque specs is 32 foot-pound. There we go. 32 foot-pound. Let's not forget about the overflow tank. Put it back in place. Replace the bolts and tighten them by feel. Reconnect the overflow hose. We will fill it with coolant later. Next, replace the belts back on the pulleys. So make sure to crawl under the car and check the belts are well seated on the crank pulley. We're good here. We're good here. And here too on the alternator. Next, let's put the slider and the lock bolt and the tensioning bolt back in place. The slider, if you buy a new one, you will have dot marking here. Show you the right orientation, how to put it. So it will sit on the car in this orientation. So first, fit the tensioning bolt back on the slider. So now comes the hard part, which is replacing the lock bolt back on the through the slider and back on the alternator. Problem is you can't see where that hole is. So I had to take my phone with me and use the camera to locate that thread hole for the lock bolt on the bottom of the alternator, and I finally got the lock bolt in place. Now let's start tensioning. So make sure to push the belt on top of the lock bolt because it's in the way. Make sure to check the tension. It's still loose, so let's keep going. So in older models like my Land Cruiser, there's no automatic tensioner, so you have to set the tension of the belt by yourself. There's a fancy tool for this I don't have. And my way to tension the belt is that if the belt can twist like 90 degree like that, that's good tension. Also there's like some slack in it to me that's good enough. So now let's torque the alternator bolt and the tensioner lock bolt. So this tensioner lock bolt is torqued to 22 foot-pound. There we go. Now this alternator bolt or pivot bolt, according to the manual, is torqued to 57 foot-pound. To me that's too much, so I'm just gonna torque it to 50 foot-pound and call it good. So next, put the output wire back on the alternator and tighten the nut securely. I don't know if there's a torque spec for this, so just go by feel and make sure it's secure in place. And don't forget about the plastic cover. If yours is missing, I recommend you get the new one because this help protects the output wire from getting any water and corrosion on it. As for this alternator connection, which you saw early in the video, it was terribly corroded. I replaced the connector and cleaned everything, and if you're interested to do the same, I will make a separate video and I will post it on the channel so you can find it. So let's reconnect the connection back on the alternator. It's getting dark here, so the quality of the video is getting terrible. Make sure it's click in place. Alright, I guess I'll continue tomorrow. Okay, let's reconnect the radiator hose. Make sure to have your clamps ready on the hose. If you are using your clamps like me, it's a good idea to replace the clamp back on the same position where they left their marks on the hose. Next, reconnect the battery terminals, positive and then negative. Go by feel and make sure they're tight. So make sure both terminals are tight. It's good. Replace your skid plate, tighten the balls, make sure it doesn't rattle. I will do this later because I want to pressure wash here. Refill your overflow tank somewhere close to the full line. Almost there. Next, refill your radiator with coolant until no more bubbles come out. Okay, now comes the fun part, assuming you did everything right. Install the car. Make sure to start your heater so you can leave it here. Don't forget about resetting your electronics because I disconnected the battery. So keep feeding the air from the system. So once you're done, replace your radiator cap and make sure it's secure. If you spill coolant, make sure to wash it off with water. You don't want to leave that because it will corrode everything metal. So yeah, that was the end of it, thank God. I would suggest driving the car for a few days and then come back here, open your hood, check that the outlet is not leaking anymore. Also check wherever you disconnected the coolant lines, this hose and here. Also make sure your alternator is charging normally. Also over time the system will bleep itself, so the level of the coolant on the overflow tank will drop, so make sure to fill it up as necessary. So yeah, thanks for watching, keep your Land Cruisers happy and don't forget to cherish yourself. Bye.